Sunday Baroque Conversations is made possible by the Friends of Sunday Baroque and is produced at WSHU Public Radio in Fairfield, Connecticut. I'm Suzanne Bona. Thank you for listening. Don't miss an episode of Sunday Baroque Conversations. Subscribe on Apple or wherever you get your podcasts. And please leave us a review. If you want to find out where you can listen to our weekly show, visit our website, sundaybaroque.org, for a station list and our 24/7 stream. Again, that's sundaybaroque.org. The Neave Trio is a Grammy-nominated chamber group consisting of violinist Anna Williams, cellist Mikhail Veselov, and pianist Ari Nakamura. The three musicians formed their ensemble in 2010, and their philosophy is to engage, exchange, and connect with everything they play. The musicians of the Neave Trio are joining me on Zoom to talk about their focus as musicians, as an ensemble, and also to talk about their 2024 recording, Rooted. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So you have a deeply touching story about how you chose the name Neave for your group. And I think it really says a lot about the relationship you have with music and the relationship you have with your listeners, too. Would you, and you can decide which one of you, or maybe you'd all like to chime in, but would you please share that story?
Absolutely. So Neve, we sort of fudge the spelling, sort of do it phonetically, but it's a Gaelic word. It's a Gaelic name that I think if we were to spell correctly would be like, I don't know, it has like an M and a P and an A. It's like all the silent letters. It's a Gaelic word that means bright or radiant, which is lovely, but actually has nothing to do with why we chose it. We had this very formative experience early on, playing in this community, got to know audience members, and in particular, this one gentleman named Bruce. And he was just one of these people for whom music meant the world, and was very sort of beautifully vocal about it. He would, always kind of talk about music and how it uplifted him in his life, particularly after he suffered an accident that left him paralyzed. So we found ourselves going to play for him at his bedside is sort of like the least, sort of a no-brainer, like the least we could do. And in those experiences, we truly felt like he gave us more than he could ever have known, because, while yes, we came and played our music for him, he gave us really the gift of like the time with him and these stories about his life before he suffered this accident. And most notably, he would talk about his daughter, who he is obviously very proud of, and her name was and is Neave. So it was a very, like I said, formative experience that really informed the why we do this crazy and wonderful thing that we're privileged to get to do, in that it has this ability bigger than the sum of its parts to connect us to one another.
It's beautiful. So chamber music, it's pretty distinctly different from playing in an orchestra, playing as a soloist. What is it about chamber music? And I'd love for each of you to sort of maybe kind of give your take about what your relationship is. It's a very personal, it's a very intimate kind of way of making music.
Yeah, as you say, it's so intimate, and every time, like, no matter how many years you've been playing this one piece, let's say Brahms trio that we really love playing, each time we rehearse, we find something new, and that's really a special thing about chamber music. We always react, and it's easier to react to each other's, like spontaneity and musicality at that moment than I think many people in the orchestra. It's just, like three of us always reacting to each other. Performances, it's always different, that's really what I enjoy the most about chamber music.
Mikhail, how about you?
Yeah, I would completely agree with that for sure. I think there's definitely the way we're able to affect and respond to each other is really special, both in rehearsals and performances. But I also think the different roles we get to play, especially in the piano trio, world, the string players, I'm a cellist and as violinist and Aries a pianist. And, as string players, for example, will get to be sometimes section players in the orchestra, like, Anne and I would sort of really provide this texture for the piano solo moment, or violin and cello duet, or cello and piano sonata. There's just all this endless combinations and roles, and depending on the repertoire, sometimes you really are playing a wind instrument or a brass instrument with your cello or violin or piano. So it's just this incredible palette of colors that we get to explore as chamber musicians. It's really special.
Mm, mm. What about you, Anna?
So I would definitely agree with everything that's been said. I think in addition, we have this privilege of getting to work together, the three of us, so intimately and so intensely. So we really not only are responsive and get to play all these different roles, but are really creating something together that is very kind of not only intimate, but like kind of vulnerable, like we have to really be there with each other in the moment, every step of the way. And so I mean, it's this huge privilege in that, yes, this incredible medium that we're so fortunate to get to take part in. It has this, this sort of miraculous way of connecting us to our listeners, which is the real gift of it, and also to one another. Like it has that real, like as you mentioned at the top of the intro, that connection, that exchange, it happens on all the levels. So it's pretty special.
I think one of the things, as someone who as much as I love the orchestral repertoire, I really love chamber music. And especially if you're in a small venue, and I've brought people to chamber music concerts where, literally you're watching the looks between the players. You're hearing them breathe. You can hear the sound of the strings. You can hear, you hear that little sound just emanating from nothing that you don't hear in a huge venue with a huge orchestra. So it's a very different experience as a listener as well as a player. And it seems to me, and maybe I'm projecting here, but when you have a small chamber music, particularly in a trio configuration, because that's a pretty small group of people, you almost function as like a family, because you really have to have such a deep rapport, and you have to have a deep respect to be able to, to say like, could we like try that a little differently? Like it really requires some diplomacy and some good communication skills and kindness,
For sure.
You're not wrong. And the not secret is that Misha and I are married, and we have a 14-month-old, and Ari is his auntie, whom he loves. Right. So yeah, you're right on, definitely on all the levels. It is kind of a family endeavor. It's true.
Yeah. So your performances, including your 5 recordings for the Chandos label so far, they range really broadly in the repertoire. I mean, you've got sort of the things that one would expect from a string trio, like Rachmaninoff and Johannes Brahms and Claude Debussy and Maurice Ravel and that sort of thing. But you've also got some Astor Piazzolla, and you've got women composers like Amy Beach and Louise Farrenc and Rebecca Clark and that sort of thing. How do you choose your repertoire? How did you come to this kind of very broad repertoire approach?
Well, I think we're lucky to work with Shando's label that is very open to ideas, and they also have their own sort of interest in directions they want to explore. And then we're extremely lucky to have this just vast repertoire for piano trio, and it's embarrassment of riches every time we trying to figure out the recording. We always try to the format of how long it can be. It's never like what else. It's never too short. It's always kind of too long. What do we have to take out? Find over the history of piano trio sort of formation, right? There's been so many composers that deserves to be heard because music is excellent, and for one reason or another they were forgotten or underperformed or not recorded, and previous recording that came out in February included Ethel Smythe Trio that maybe been recorded a couple of times on the Typhoeira Trio as well. But this recording has Coleridge Taylor, this really wonderful five Negro melodies that he arranged himself for piano trio, and it's just really, really beautiful music that should be heard. And it's not only because it's underheard, but because it's just great music and deserves to be played along with Brahms, Ravel, and Rachmaninoff, and all the trios that you mentioned.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so glad you said it, and I'm so glad you said it that way because I agree. I think, we can't say that we're mining the excellence of classical music if we're not fishing in the whole pond. And for a very long time, we haven't fished in the whole pond. And so I appreciate that you are doing that because I think there's excellence and it deserves to be heard because it is excellent. And by the way, it's not been receiving its due. So let's talk specifically about Rooted then and all the pieces on this. It's lovely and it's a really interesting collection. Samuel Coleridge Taylor, let's talk about that piece. What do you love about that piece?
It's lyrical, melodic, and it's based on four are based on the American spirituals, and he really got in touch with his roots, coming to America and then hearing those spirituals. And one is like African folk melody. It's just like beautifully arranged, and I almost really love the trio version than having read the solo version. And those are the 5 of his 24. He picked really his favorites, I think.
Anna and
Yeah,
Mika, what do you
I think
love about
if you hear his other music, which those listeners who haven't, check it out. He's really incredible composer and he has symphonic works and piano works. But he in this specific 5 songs, but also the set of 24 for piano, we felt like he really connects to his roots in that, and he really finds that voice that's unique to him. His writing style is very romantic, but I don't know, just something so sincere and really him in five songs that we really felt just emanating from those arrangements.
You've also got those Irish songs on there as well. So how did that come about?
Yes. Well, so my grandmother is, I hope, smiling down on us about it. She was a first generation Irish American, and I grew up with the Irish jig at every family function. Varying degrees of sobriety, but definitely a lot of dancing involved. And my mother was actually an Irish step dancer, a champion Irish step dancer, danced in Carnegie Hall long before any of us played there. So I mentioned this only because when we were sort of gifted this opportunity to learn it for actually a Celtic music festival here, not here, we're in Richmond now, but where we were based in Massachusetts, we jumped at the opportunity. It's so fun. It's so dance driven. Like it's, to me, like it's so vivid of either you're seeing moments of like the mist, the Inishmaan, maybe, the mist of like the Irish folklore in the sea, or literally like feeling the beats of a reel or a jig. So for me, it took on a really kind of a fun, nostalgia that I don't know how you guys felt about it in that regard, but it's a tricky little devil too.
Yeah.
So it was a great experience, and yeah, I'm a fan.
What about the other music, the Smetana, the Suk? What do you love about those pieces?
Well, Smetana is just incredibly personal, and I think he wrote this shortly after his 4-year-old daughter passed, which is just unavengable tragedy, and he lost more than one of his children. But despite that very obvious just agony that you hear in that trio, you hear also these moments of light and memories of this child, and it's just unbelievably meaningful piece, and it's still rooted in very much Chag tradition and and romantic tradition, and he still stays true to his own voice, but it's just so personal and
Mhm.
expressive. So I don't know, just I think to me it's sort of the heart of the whole recording is that trio, and just
Mm.
being a new parent is just I can't even imagine what you have to deal with going through that. So that's probably the only way he could express anything about it is that piece.
Yeah. Yeah.
Intense
Mhm.
and so, but intense but hopeful at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
But
Mhm.
Yeah. So what's your next project?
Oh my gosh. Well,
We just recorded about a month and a week ago. Recorded our next album that will be coming out hopefully sometime next year.
Cool.
It's arrangement of La Mer, and when I was talking about sort of different roles and different instruments we have to actually imitate sometimes, not
Wow.
just in this case, but in other pieces too. But La Mer is just prime example of it. It's just this incredible arrangement by Sally Beamish,
Wow.
and it really becomes its own piece. It's not really trying to be the Debussy, the orchestral version, but really a piano trio by both Debussy and Beamish. It's really a beautiful piece and beautifully done as an arrangement.
Wow.
So it's a lot of fun to record that. And we also have Saint-Saëns trio on that, and a great two miniatures by Mel Bonis, a French composer. It's
Yeah.
really, really beautiful two pieces.
Nice. Oh, good. I look forward to that. Um, so you have this 14-month-old, and we think a lot in classical music, as musicians, as broadcasters, or whatever, about the future of the
mhm.
classical music tradition. So what do you think? What do you think I use the royal we, what should we be doing to try to keep this tradition alive, to try to broaden our audiences, to try to bring more people in? Do you have any personal thoughts about that? Pearls of wisdom, wish list things that you think we should be doing to try to cultivate audiences?
Well, I mean, I think if you guys don't mind, I'll speak first. But I'm actually doing this interview right here from Virginia Commonwealth University, where we currently in residence, and seeing students, both music majors and sort of aspiring musicians to be professionally, but also music minors or students who just take music who are not necessarily going to make it their career. There's a lot of love and interest for music. So I think
Mhm.
first of all, just knowing that already is very hopeful and inspiring to see that young generation come in,
Mhm.
really appreciating and being excellent at it, both as audiences and as performers themselves. But then also, I think coming back to sort of our mission or guiding principles of engaging, exchanging, and connecting, I think that is our job, is to really communicate
Mhm.
and kind of connect as to why we love it and what do we connect in it. And I think chamber music is such a great medium because it is very personal music. I think as example for composers, I think Smetana Trio, he really wrote about his personal
Mhm.
experience, and I don't think it's a mistake that he chose chamber music as a medium to express.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, not to say that symphony can't express something very personal, but there's something about chamber music that really connects on such a direct and deep level, and I think that is the key to being introduced to this genre, to really connect to an experience. So go hear a concert live and connect to the
Mhm.
to the piece of music that speaks to you. It doesn't have to be the same for everybody. And I think our job is to really try to do that and really focus on that as musicians.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I would just second that. I mean, I agree with everything that was said. The idea of like providing sort of a window to meet audiences where they are. So like we love, you know, we really love what we get to do and see it as a privilege, like I said, and whether that's a recording, like a straight ahead, recital, or collaborations, like we're currently, we're going to premiere in a couple of weeks, the world premiere of Rising, a dance program with an entirely new work by Robert Sirota, that's really talking about climate change and in this beautiful, very touching way. It doesn't sort of beat you over the head or leave you depressed. It leaves you with actual hope. But things like that, where yes, it's classical music, which we're all supposed to be, I don't know, allergic to or think is snobby or whatever it is, but is deeply human and able to express things beyond the scope of language, beyond the scope of, even sort of idioms that other maybe genres can fall into. And I would say, on top of that, since you mentioned our baby, it's really interesting. We have brought him out of necessity. We've brought him to a lot of rehearsals, a lot of performances too, but a lot of rehearsals. I was actually pregnant for this album as well. So he's been there, but it's really interesting because, he's so little, but he reacts deeply. Like he will want to get up and dance to certain things. He'll sort of have a literal, bounce in his step to certain things. Sometimes we'll play something and he'll really have that shocked response, or he'll find it hilarious, like he'll giggle. And I only mention that because I think there is something so innate to the language that it is, and then we, as sort of society, or for lack of a better term, we come in later and make it this elitist thing, but it's at the heart of it, it's really not. So if we can we collectively, royal we, can sort of build on that, the human experience of it, I think the future will be bright.
Yeah. What about you, Ari? What do you think about all this?
Well, since you mentioned that, so the new work by Robert Sirota and the dancers, we love collaborating with living composers. So, at the same time as we love playing Brahms and Ravel and Rachmaninoff, we really love working with the current composers, so that the whole, tradition of classical music, just, like into the future, that what do you call it? Just flourishes, keeps continuing this tradition. And then we are really advocate of, that continuation and getting wider audiences, maybe with more collaboration and just wider audiences.
Yeah. Well, I think it's great. And to mix it up as you do, to play, again, the sort of, if you will, standard string trio repertory, and then just have it alongside other pieces that may not be as familiar, but have the same level of excellence. I think that's a great way to present it. You're curating it in a way that you're building some trust and you're building some familiarity, and you're sort of taking it to the next level. So it's great. Beautifully done.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have been speaking on Zoom with members of the Neave Trio, violinist Anna Williams, cellist Misha Veselov, and pianist Ari Nakamura. Thank you all very, very much. This has been great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having us.